I was a nurse at the asylum, a place where the most dangerous and mentally unstable patients were kept. It was a dark and creepy place, and I was always on edge, always afraid of what might happen. But I loved my job, and I was determined to help those who were in need. One day, a new doctor arrived at the asylum. He was a strange and sinister man, and from the moment I met him, I knew that there was something off about him. He was cold and distant, and he seemed to have a cruel streak. Despite my reservations, I worked alongside the doctor, trying to help him in any way that I could. But then, one day, everything changed. I was making my rounds, checking on the patients, when I stumbled upon something truly horrifying. The doctor had murdered one of the patients, a young man who was suffering from severe mental illness. The man was lying on the floor, dead, and the doctor was standing over him, his hands covered in blood. I was horrified and terrified, and I ran to the nearest phone to call the police. But before I could make the call, the doctor grabbed me and held me at gunpoint. He told me that he was going to blame the murder on another patient, a man who was already locked away in the asylum. I was horrified, but I couldn't escape the doctor's grip. He locked me in a room, and I could hear him moving around outside, making preparations. I knew that I was going to die, that I was going to become another victim of the doctor's madness. But then, suddenly, I heard a commotion. The other patients had become restless, and the doctor was trying to calm them down. I used the distraction to make my escape, and I ran from the asylum as fast as I could. I went to the police and told them what had happened, but they didn't believe me. They thought that I was just another mad woman, trying to make up a story. The doctor had already blamed the murder on the other patient, and the man was locked away for life, unable to defend himself. I was heartbroken, and I felt like I had failed. I had failed the patient who had been murdered, and I had failed the patient who had been wrongly accused. And all because of the doctor's evil and twisted plan. I will go back to the asylum and steal the key of that poor man's room and free him from the evil doctor. I could never rest again knowing an innocent man will be locked away for life because of my cowardice.
I was a ghost hunter, a person who sought out the paranormal and tried to capture evidence of the afterlife. I had been doing this for years, and I had seen some truly incredible things. But I had never encountered anything like the ghost I found in the abandoned asylum. The asylum was a dark and creepy place, and it was said to be haunted by the spirits of the patients who had once been housed there. I had heard rumors of strange noises, ghostly apparitions, and even poltergeist activity, and I was eager to investigate. I entered the asylum, my ghost hunting equipment at the ready. I felt a chill run down my spine as I walked down the dark and creepy halls. The asylum was silent, but I could sense that there was something there, something waiting for me. And then, suddenly, I saw it. A ghostly figure, shrouded in darkness, appeared before me. It was a terrifying sight, and I felt my heart race with fear. But I was a ghost hunter, and I was not going to be defeated by some silly ghost. I raised my ghost hunting equipment and prepared to capture the ghost. But then, to my surprise, the ghost attacked. It was a fierce and violent spirit, and it seemed determined to stop me from capturing it. I fought back, but I was no match for the ghost. It was too powerful, and I was no longer in control. I felt myself being dragged down into the darkness, and I knew that I was going to lose. And then, suddenly, everything went dark. I awoke to find myself lying on the floor of the asylum, my ghost hunting equipment broken and useless. I was defeated, and I had failed in my mission to capture the ghost. But I learned a valuable lesson that day. I learned that there are some things in this world that are too powerful for even the bravest of ghost hunters. And I knew that I would never forget the terrifying encounter I had had with the ghost in the abandoned asylum.
And so, I continued my search for the key, day after day. I explored every nook and cranny of the abandoned hospital, searching for any clues that might lead me to it. But no matter how hard I searched, I could not find it. The key seemed to have vanished into thin air. Years passed, and I began to lose hope. I thought that I would never find the key, that I would be doomed to roam the halls of the hospital forever, searching in vain. But then, one day, something changed. I was roaming the halls, just like any other day, when I heard a sound. It was a soft, tinkling sound, like the jingling of keys. I followed the sound, and it led me to a room that I had never seen before. The door was slightly ajar, and the sound was coming from within. I pushed the door open and stepped inside. And there, in the center of the room, was the key. It was sitting on a table, glinting in the dim light. I couldn't believe my luck. I had finally found it, after all these years. I reached for the key, my hand trembling with excitement. And then, suddenly, the room began to shake. The walls started to crack, and the floor started to split apart. I realized too late that the key was cursed, just as they had said. It was bringing death and destruction to the hospital, just as they had warned. But I couldn't let go of the key. I was so close to finally finding my redemption, to finally finding peace. I held on to the key, even as the room crumbled around me. And in that moment, I felt a rush of power coursing through my body. When the dust settled, I was still standing, still holding the key. And I realized that I was no longer a ghost. I was free.
I was free.
I was finally
free. And with the key in my hand, I walked out of the abandoned hospital and into the light, ready to start my new life.